Today we are reading Proverbs 25. These are other Proverbs of Solomon, the official of King Hezekiah of Judah copied. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings is to search things out. Like the heavens for height, like the earth for depth, so the mind of kings is unsearchable. Take away the dross from the silver, and the smith has material for a vessel. Take away the wicked from the presence of the king, and the throne will be established in righteousness. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of a great, for it is better to be told, "Come up here," than to be put low in the presence of a noble. What your eyes have seen, do not hastily bring into court, for what will you do in the end when your neighbor puts you to shame? Argue your case with your neighbor directly, and do not disclose another secret, or else someone who hears you will bring shame upon you, and your ill repute will have no end. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Like a gold wing or an ornament of gold, it is wise rebuke in the listening ear. Like the cold of snow in the time of harvest are faithful messengers to those who send them. They refresh the spirit of their masters. Like clouds and winds without rain is one who boasts of a gift never given. With patience a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue can break bones. If you have found honey, eat only enough for you, or else, having too much, you will vomit it. Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, otherwise the neighbor will become weary of you and hate you. Like a war club, a sword, or a sharp arrow is one who bears false witness against a neighbor. Like a bad tooth or a lame foot is trust in the faithful person in times of trouble. Like vinegar on a wound is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. Like a moth in clothing or a worm in wood, sorrow gnaws at the human heart. If your enemies are hungry, give them bread to eat. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. For you will heap coals of fire on their heads, and the Lord will reward you. The north wind produces rain, and the backbiting tongue, angry looks. It is better to live in a corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a contentious wife. Like cold water to a thirsty soul is the good news from a far country. Like a muddled spirit on a polluted fountain are the righteous who give way before the wicked. It is not good to eat much honey or to seek honor on top of honor. Like a city breached without walls is one who lacks self-control. It's that last verse that I just read, that's the verse that I'm going to be looking at. Let me repeat it. Like a city breached without walls is one who lacks self-control. What if you came home one day, and unfortunately this does happen, especially with the tornadoes we've had around, and all that's left of your house is the inside. There's no walls on the outside or roof. Would you feel safe spending the night there with no walls or roof around you? My guess is you wouldn't. I know I wouldn't feel safe. Even if the bathroom had a wall around it, I wouldn't feel safe in any other part of the house, knowing that there was no lock or door to keep me safe. Well, back in biblical times, walls were used as a way of safety around a city. Nobody could breach the walls, they thought. They could be safe inside. They would keep everybody inside and keep them safe from the outside world. Well, self-control is a little bit like that. It's like a wall around us that keeps us safe from ourselves, from our own desires and needs that we can't control on our own. And if you don't get yourself under control, somebody else will do it for you. Think about how you treat your children, not in the bad ways that they always say in the Proverbs, but in the good ways where you're trying to teach your children self-control when it comes to things like their time on electronics and things. You work on giving them time limits so that they aren't out of control when it comes to all the hours that they're spending on those machines. There are certainly examples in the Bible of people that are not in control of themselves. One that came to mind to me is Samson. and Samson and Samson and Delilah. Samson was infatuated. I'm not sure he was in love, but he was certainly infatuated with Delilah. And he was willing to do just about anything for him. And she was being paid off in order to get Samson's secret of his strength. At the beginning, Samson doesn't tell her the truth, but finally, after she wears him down, Samson tells him that it's his hair that is his strength. And what does she do? She cuts the hair off, and he ends up being killed because of it all. He loses his strength and his eyesight and his inability to control himself with Delilah caused that. Probably the best example of self-control in the Bible has to be Jesus. Jesus certainly resisted temptation when he is thrown out in the wilderness right after his baptism. We get examples, 3 of them, of his resisting temptation. Even one of them was making bread, and he had been for 40 days and 40 nights not eating anything or drinking anything. So you can imagine that temptation would have been about self-control. Could he control his hunger so that he didn't give in to the devil? And I could give you countless examples of Jesus showing us self-control. But what we are called to do is to be like Christ, to work on our self-control. And that's really what my 2 questions are about. The first one is, what are some areas in your life where you have no self-control? And the second question is, how does your relationship with Christ help strengthen your self-control? Amen.